pre-COVID-19?
Good morning, everyone. Here we are back again, Monday morning, Motivation Monday. And what a great week to kick off again. The country seems to be heading into, is it phase 2? Not quite sure yet today, but really enjoying these Motivation Mondays to get us all up and going every week and to show us that Monday's not like any other day. Fantastic to have today another generous teacher with us, who's going to share some ideas with us. And this is Royston Guest, who's the Chief Exec of Pathways Global. Royston used to have a business in Warwick, lived in Leamington, sold that, now lives on Jersey. He's an entrepreneur, author. You might find his books, Built to Grow and Rise. I think we're heading up the bestseller scale, I believe. Spoken to literally tens of thousands of people, 250,000 leaders over the years, and again, many thousands of hours of learning that he's shared with businesses around the world. So, delighted now to pass you over into the good hands of Royston Guest of Pathways Global, and challenging us, are we thinking like a day one business? So, over to you, Royston.
Firstly, thanks, Jonathan, and it's great to be here with you on our Monday Motivation section. My goal is to make sure that the next 15-20 minutes are massively value-adding for you, and it really prompts your thinking. And I think always in life it's about timeliness, and there's a real timeliness around this session, particularly around the title, Are You Thinking Like a Day One Business? And I'll talk more about the title in a moment. I just want to give some context to where I'm coming at this from. So I think on September the 1st, and I use September the 1st as an arbitrary date in order to demonstrate this point, that one of two scenarios will play out on September the 1st. There will be those businesses who wake up September the 1st and they're fast out the blocks, and they're definitely more like a V, and their bounce back is quick. They've done their critical thinking, they're out the blocks, and they're leaving everybody else in their wake. On September the 1st, there'll be a second group of businesses who also wake up. And these will be the ones who suddenly put their head above the parapet, who are washing off their forehead and suddenly thinking, thank God that's all over, what are we going to do now? And my question is, which camp and which business scenario are you going to be into? And you've got to be around for the rebound. But I think what's really important, and what I'm finding with all the clients that we're working with across the marketplace at the moment, is that people are really starting to think about what that rebound looks like. And what does success look like? So my question for us to debate and think about is, what will rebound look like for your business? And how do you control the controllable? What are the things that are absolutely within your circle of influence? And I absolutely guarantee one thing: the quality of the thinking that goes into your input bowl today in May will absolutely dictate, when we do get the momentum, the cadence and the rhythm builds, will dictate how successful you are. So my challenge for you is, what does your rebound plan look like? And what is that critical thinking that you're starting to put into the input bowl? And hopefully this 15-20 minutes will stimulate and give you some good thoughts and ideas that will help to shape some of your thinking about what that rebound plan could look like. Now, we've only got 15-20 minutes together today. What I would say is, and we're going to put a link at the bottom of this live feed, is we are doing a webinar on Wednesday where we're doing a full hour on this very subject. So today I'm just going to give you a snapshot of the 3 questions that underpin this thinking. If you want more of a deep dive, please sign up to the webinar. It's completely free on Wednesday, but it will give you a much greater depth and substance. There's also a toolkit that we're doing, and also a plan on the page rebound template that you can use in order to create your rebound plan. So let me plant the seeds today, and hopefully it will salt the oats of enough curiosity for you to go, Royston, I'd love to spend more time looking at this stuff on Wednesday as well. So where did this thinking come from? Are you thinking like a day one business? So Jeff Bezos, back in 2017, was doing the shareholders report at the annual meeting for Amazon. And interestingly enough, at the start, he called Amazon a day one business. And everybody looked at him like he was crazy, thinking, Amazon a day one business? And here's your trivia question in our first question for our session is, when was Amazon founded? What instantly pops into your mind in terms of thinking about the date? And actually, you might be surprised that Amazon started on July the 5th, 1994, 26 years earlier. And yet, in 2017, Amazon, Jeff Bezos is calling Amazon a day one business. And his answer was quite profound in terms of what followed, in terms of the explanation, why he was putting Amazon in that frame of a day one business. And notice the language in here, because language creates meaning. And the language he uses is very provocative, and it's very active as opposed to being passive language. And he simply said that day two is status, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. And that's why Amazon will always be a day one business. And I've been working with clients on three themes centered around relevance, agility, and resilience for a while. And what I was struggling with, what was the headline title that I could put over the top of this signatory presentation and session I wanted to create? And as soon as I heard Jeff Bezos talking about this, that was it. Are you thinking like a day one business? And I think this is relevant for all of us, irrelevant of whether you're a big business, a small business. And bearing in mind, Amazon started in Bellevue, Washington, in Bezos' rented house, in his garage. His parents lent him $250,000 to set up the online bookstore, which is where Amazon started. And I think what his telling message was against this principle was that what has made Amazon successful is our constant thirst and search for relevance every single day, that we are agile in our thinking, we're agile in our actions, and we are building a resilient business. And whilst a lot of people, even to this moment, criticize Amazon, I don't know about you, but I've certainly tried to spread different stores and online shops that I've been using. And one of the reasons we go back to Amazon is because they are relevant. They make doing business easy. And I've tried to buy stuff with B&Q and do click and collect, and the website's crashed or it's taken you through and suddenly say it's out of stock. So there is something that we can learn from Amazon in terms of how they set their business up. And I absolutely buy into the authenticity of this whole principle about their day one business thinking and mentality, which is why they are as successful as they are. So the key message for me today is simply this, that 2020 will be studied in the echelons of business schools across the world as a fundamental year for structural change, not just in what we do, but how we do it. I call it the 2020 business reset. And not only will COVID-19 be put in the same camp as Spanish flu, we will be studying the structural change that happens in the business world. So the most important message for me today is that this is not about a reboot post-COVID-19. It's not about going back to where we were before. It is about fundamental structural change to not only what we do, but how we do business. And hopefully these three questions will act as a stimulus for you in terms of evaluating where are you at with your critical thinking at this time? What does your rebound plan look like? And how do you almost tear up the rule book and have that white hat thinking where you ignite your curiosity, your why questions, and you really challenge not only what you do, but how you do it. And you really do think about it as the reset and forward to NewCo. The question is, what does NewCo look like for you in your business? So these three themes that we're going to talk about, the first being relevance. And questions for me are the accessing cue to our higher potential. Questions have got the ability to stop us in our mental tracks and evaluate where we are, where it is we want to get to, and what the bridge looks like in order to close the gap. So the first question underpinning, are you thinking like day one business, is all about how relevant are you? How relevant is your business? How relevant are you as a leader? How relevant are you as a partner of choice for customers and clients? How relevant are you as an employer of choice? And how relevant are you for investors and the suppliers and the network that you feeds into making sure that your business is successful? So I think that the relevance question is a great question to really start to evaluate and think about. And I put these businesses up here just to stimulate your thinking in the 15, 20 minutes that we've got today about why did these businesses dive and why have these businesses thrived? What is the difference? And the fundamental for me is that the line between the two can be a thin line. And even successful businesses, you know, Tesco's, you could have argued probably 3 or 4 years ago, might have been on the left-hand side, not on the right-hand side. When Dave came back in as CEO, he's managed to turn Tesco's back around, go forward to basics and bring the business back. Apple, if any of you know the story, was 90 days away from running out of cash. It was about to be bought by Sun Microsoft Systems. It was only when Steve Jobs came back in for his second tenure as CEO that he got the business back on track. So even great businesses, the difference between being on the left-hand side in diving and being on the right-hand side in terms of thriving can be a thin line. And it's about what you do every single day. And this whole philosophy and thinking about a day one business and questions like how relevant are we, for me, are not questions that you just ask as part of an annual business planning cycle. These should be daily questions that we're constantly asking, because the marketplace, the world is just moving so quickly. So if you look to the left-hand side and why have some of those businesses died, is it that they took their eye off the ball, that they got complacent, that they just didn't focus in terms of being innovative, they didn't reinvent themselves? And even when you look at companies like Blockbuster, 4 times the board of Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix, and they rejected Netflix because they said the future of video was not in streaming. What a big mistake that one was. BlackBerry, not long ago, BlackBerry was the gadget, the technology to have. Now it's completely irrelevant and at extinction, and the business has gone bust. So I just challenge these to stimulate your thinking about how businesses have got to maintain their relevance. And my question for you is, where do you currently sit? Which side of the line do you sit on as a business? And the key principle that I think you can really take away from this session about relevance, and the singular, for me, most important principle, is that the businesses that are on the right-hand side, the businesses that are thriving, the businesses that are kicking on to the next level, they think outside in, not inside out. And great businesses are constantly walking through their business through the eyes of the customer. They ask questions like, how easy are we to do business with? How simple is it? What's our proposition that we've got? How easy do we make it across our multi-channel for customers, clients to be able to do business and buy from us? So the difference between average businesses and great businesses is that inside out or outside in thinking. And you probably heard the expression B2B, are you a business to business or a B2C, business to consumer? At Pathways, we talk, and this was not an original idea, we stole it from Alibaba, which is probably one of the most successful technology businesses globally currently, sitting alongside Amazon. And when Jack Ma built Alibaba, part of their philosophy at the front end was, they said, we're not a B2B or a B2C business, we're a C2B business. And you might go, Royston, it's just a play on words, it's semantics. But I think there's a fundamental cultural shift when you absolutely see the customers being the focal point of why you exist, that you don't just pay lip service to it. It's not just about actually the words, customer first, and we talk a good game. But when you are a true C2B business, you are thinking outside in. You're constantly challenging and asking those questions about how easy are you to do business with? And you are designing your processes, your systems through your customer's lens. So my challenge for you is, when you think about your relevance, when you are looking in your own mirror and challenging where you are in your journey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective do you think you are about being a C2B business, where you are easy to do business and where everything you do is designed through the lens of the customer? So when we think about relevance, I think there's 2 questions that you can take away. How do we need to be thinking as a day one business to not just survive, but thrive? And that's a daily question that we need to be asking every single day. And the second, and perhaps most important question, is knowing what you know now, with the benefit of hindsight. If you could rip up your rule book, if you could rip up your playbook, if you could rewrite the script of how you would design your business through a lens of curiosity, innocence, and why questions, what would you do with your business? Now, that might mean that it's a revolution for you, because you've got to completely redesign and remodel and rebuild your business and retool it. Or it might be that it's a evolution, and actually some of this thinking is already embedded in what you do and how you do it. Whichever pathway it is for you, fantastic. If it's positive reinforcement, what you're already doing, positive affirmation is a great thing. But also, if it does mean a fundamental rethink, reshift and retooling about what you do, then be prepared, be bold, be courageous as a leader to recognize that it might be you need to rip up the rule book. So that's just our taste of relevance. How relevant are you? Then we come to the agility piece, and how agile are you? And here's an interesting stat which I pulled relevant to what we're talking about today, that back in the 1920s, on the S&P 500, the major stock market of the world, the average life expectancy of a business in the 1920s was 67 years. Wind forward to 2027, and the estimated life expectancy of an S&P 500 business in 2027 is 12 years. Now, that's incredible in just over 100 years, how the life expectancy is decreased. Competitors are waking up. There's new entrants into the marketplace. So we have to be more agile in our thinking. We have to be more agile in how we're setting our business up, agile in how we think, how we feel, and how we act. So a couple of questions. One, if you were evaluating your business today, irrelevant of size, because small businesses can be thinking and acting more like an oil tanker, and big businesses can have the scale of the oil tanker, but be thinking like a tugboat. So for example, if I said to you, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, which would you say he is, a tugboat or an oil tanker? Now, if Jeff Bezos was here, actually he would say we're both. We've got the scale and the ability to grow like the oil tanker, but we've got the agility through thinking like a day one business to be more like a tugboat. And the problem is when you're young in your early days as a business, you're definitely the tugboat. You are fast, you're agile, you're nimble in what you do. And then what happens as we grow, we start to add in systems, processes that slow us down. So my challenge for you is to really evaluate, have you lost some of that agile thinking and how you've set the business up for success? And part of that is your view and how you view change. And certainly in a day one business, change is no longer a discrete intervention or a project that's given a project title or code. Change is a constant. And if you think about the last decade, and particularly when you go back to the 2008 financial crash, and then we've had Brexit, and now we've got COVID-19, we are constantly in a state of flux. So in your culture, in your DNA, as a leader, but also as a business, where are you on the scale with change? Is change, is it your friend or is it your foe? Do you see change as an opportunity or is it a threat? Is it you are embracing change and it's just a constant, it's part of a way of doing business? And the one thing for certain is change is not going to go away. And the more agile we are in our thinking, the more dynamic we are, and the more we set our businesses up to be agile like the tugboat, then the more we will be relevant for our customers and our clients moving forward. And I think this quote about change really summarizes this point and drives it home, that if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance even less. And you only need to look through the archives of the businesses on the left hand of that slide that we talked about, the businesses that have dived, to understand the impact of not embracing change and not being agile in our thinking, thought, and subsequent action. And then the final piece of agility I just wanted to share with you that I thought was a really practical golden nugget that you could take away is that go through your business and do a clean sweep. And as you go through your business and do a clean sweep, think about the principle of simplicity. Because my absolute passionate belief, having done what I've done for over 2 decades now, is that we have an innate ability as human beings to over-engineer and make life more complicated than it needs to be. And I think simplicity is genius. Simplicity in our processes and systems, simplicity in how easy it is for customers to do business with us, simplicity in our communication and how we engage with our customers, how we engage with our employees. So walk through your business and actually interrogate, question, challenge everything that you are doing and think, is simplicity the golden thread that is running through everything that we're doing? And if you can really go forward to basics with simplicity, then you will start to build a really agile business that is relevant, that is agile, that leads nicely down onto the next point that we're going to be talking about, and it becomes resilient. So our final part of this session today, just to plant these seeds around this, are you a day one business? Resilience, I believe, is an overused word and has become one of those buzzwords that's used in management speak. And what does resilient mean from a business perspective? That's the important part. So one, there's 3 guiding principles. One, resilience is about confronting reality head on, where you don't bury your head in the sand, where you absolutely are clear about the headwinds that we are navigating into, and you lock in your core of steel. It's like the meerkat, you get your head up and you are prepared to confront those realities head on and get to solution mode about what you need to do. You're not burying your head in the sand. The second part of resilience is about belief in your purpose and that what you do has meaning and context and you can make a difference. And then the third part of resilience is about your ability to improvise and adapt. And my simple point on resilience is that resilience is not one thing that you do in your business. Rather, resilience is a singular thing. It's a multifaceted, integrated way of thinking and acting and how you set your business up for success. So, for example, when you think about resilience, how do you manage customer concentration risk? How does the 80-20 principle relate to your business in terms of, are 80% of your customers delivering 20% of the profitability, or 20% of your profit comes from 80% of your customers? How are you managing key concentration risk? Over-engineered processes and procedures and governance don't create and allow you to set your business up as an agile business and be resilient. Over-dependency on products or services on key vertical markets. How you measure in the short or the long term, and you're focused on numbers versus behaviors. So hopefully what that demonstrates for you is resilience is a multifaceted, integrated focus in your business of a number of areas that, when working together, will allow you to build a resilience platform from which you can build accelerated, sustained and profitable growth. And finally, which I think brings our session to a close, and then I'm open to questions, that the great thing is, when you are absolutely doing your critical thinking, that it's not just about only having one plan and being tunnel focused. So if plan A doesn't work, the great news is there's 25 more letters in the alphabet. So if you are agile in your thinking and agile in your planning, then as you test and you pivot and find out what works and what doesn't work, you can then take the corrective action. So there you have it. That's my snapshot of, in 20 minutes, are you thinking like a day one business? If you want to join the webinar, we will put a link below. There's a toolkit that you'll be able to use, and I'll be going into this whole subject in more detail. And of course, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook, and then sign up to our blog on roystonguest.com. So I'm going to come out of my sharing my screen now so that I can see everybody else, and then I can take any questions that people might have. Thank you, Jonathan. Was that useful?
Brilliant. Very, very useful. One company which I didn't see on your screen, which I know about in my family, because with wife and two daughters, is the company called Zara.
Yeah.
Constantly amazed as to how fast they move. And in a few weeks, their whole range has gone from outwear to leisure homeware, comfortable at home, and all of it, and how they pose their models. And my wife and daughter just show, say, look at this company is just so fast. And they are a brilliant company.
Yeah, speed is everything. Speed to market, speed in your thinking, but it starts with your thinking. It's like, you know, success is 80% psychology, 20% skill. So this whole session today is about the mindset and the critical thinking that you put into the input bowl today.
So I'm just looking around, any questions on the chat, any Q's and A's. Anyone on the screen, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. I think the thing for myself is, we're very much an events business. We get people to go places to meet each other, and yet now we're probably hosting 3 times more events a week than we used to. Last week we had over 200 people attending different things, and changing it to being meeting on purpose rather than meeting general. So, and that's all challenging. And it's thinking now, when we can meet physically, what do we do then? Do we still keep these focus things? And that's great. It's an exciting time. However tough and difficult it is, it gets the old grey cells working, that's for sure.
And Jonathan, your business is a great example of the whole day one business. You know, the way that you do these Monday motivation sessions, the way that you've taken stuff online, and what COVID-19 will do, and it will make us think differently, and it's accelerating our thinking massively. And you've got to be around for the rebound. But for those businesses that are around for the rebound, I guarantee one thing: the landscape will open up and there will be phenomenal opportunities. And what you will see is there will be a clearing of some of the businesses that probably were being badly run or shouldn't have been in business anyway. Some of those will go by the wayside, but the landscape will open up in terms of opportunity. I absolutely believe that post the challenge that we're facing now.
And people have commented quite verbally about how companies are behaving to the world, to their staff, you know, giving shareholders profits, yet taking money off the government to pay their staff, and these things, and people will remember. And it's I think you have to really watch yourself as well.
Yeah, Jonathan, just let me show you this. So so this is an original Australian boomerang. We import these from Australia. The reason I share this with you is when anybody joins any of our businesses, as part of their induction, they're given a boomerang. And just picking up your point that you're making there, the whole principle of the boomerang, throw the boomerang out there, add phenomenal value, and the rewards bowl will take care of itself. And you're absolutely right about businesses. And again, using the arbitrary September the 1st, businesses will be remembered on September the 1st for whether they did the right thing or whether they did the wrong thing. And the right thing is throwing the boomerang out there, adding phenomenal value, more value than people were expecting at these times, and going the extra mile. And in that process, you will build loyalty, you will build a raving fans of clients and customers, and you will differentiate yourself and set yourself up as a trust brand. So yeah, it's a great point that you make, and I absolutely passionately believe that.
There's a question here. Oh, Charlie got away. What are the best ways to find out how your customers' why has changed?
So the best ways of doing it is by engaging with them. So whether that's through a questionnaire, whether that's through picking up the phone and speaking to some customers. And it's a great point that if you really are a C2B business, you are constantly getting behind the eyes of your customers. You're not assumptive and guessing what you think that they want, that whether it's through questionnaires, whether it's through engagement with them, that you're actually doing that piece of work. And for me, it's probably not one or the other. It's an integrated approach. You can try doing a questionnaire, which you can easily set up these days with SurveyMonkey or whatever it is. You pick up the phone to some good customers and have the conversations with them, because in doing both those two activities, you will really get underneath the bonnet of what it is that customers want and need both now and in the future. So it's a process of actual physical engagement is so fundamental in that question.
Mm. And last one here, someone who works a lot in the hospitality, especially in the pub and bar industry. Do you have a view on how do we get people to overcome their fear to come out of lockdown?
Yeah, and this is the challenge, because it's one thing when we do open up, it's another thing. We have programmed people for 6, 8, 12 weeks, whatever that timeline will look like, to stay at home. I know there's so many people who've got anxiety. There's going to be a lot of mental health issues. So people will be anxious about what the environments that they're going into. So it's not just going to be a switch that's pressed like that. I think there's a couple of things. One, and I've noticed it in a couple of stores and shops that I've been in, that we have to make sure that it's, for example, there's no reason why people in shops shouldn't still be having the radio on a bit of music. But you go into a lot of the smaller supermarkets, particularly on Jersey, and it's like going into a morgue. And the other day when I went into the Co-op, they actually had music on. So I think what's important is that there is transparency, that you are really clear with customers. How do you neutralize uncertainty? How do you neutralize fear in their minds by great communication with them about what their expectations is and how you are dealing with whatever the landscape will look like in terms of social distancing, in terms of engagement. So I think you've just really got to think about, and it's a great point, about how you neutralize that uncertainty in the minds of customers and make it easier for them to come back into your environments. And unfortunately, pubs, restaurants are going to be some of the most challenged environments and probably the last that are going to open back up. So I think it's just transparency about being really clear about how you're going to get people back in. And then as soon as you get people back in, about how you get them to do some customer videos and share that people can actually see that the environment is safe, that people are enjoying it, because it's going to be a slow progression to build people's confidence to get them back into those environments.